So loud, and so jarring every time. I should know by now. All right, so we're back to regular Mishlei. Okay, regular Mishlei, for those who are not familiar, is basically from chapter 10 through 29-ish. And it's like each pasuk is a different topic. They're proverbs. That's why they call the book of Proverbs. And we can analyze it on its own. Okay, and we're still going to, even though I gave you Mefarshim, we're still going to do what we usually do, which is read it without the Mefarshim, think about it without the Mefarshim, fully analyze it as much as we can, and then go to the Mefarshim afterwards. Okay, so we are on pasuk 18. This is chapter 20, pasuk 18. Machashavot be'etza tikon uvetachbulos aseh milchama. Anyone want to take a stab at translating that or partially translating it?
Your thoughts are like, the eights are like a branch, I guess, or like a tree of tikon. I don't.
So it's interesting. I never thought about the relationship between eights and eitzah. So eights does mean tree. Eitzah means advice. Yeah. So thoughts with advice.
Thoughts with tikon.
That's a hard one to translate. Anyone know?
I just keep thinking about tikon. That's right.
No, that's with a kuf. So I actually, just to make sure I got all the different translations, I just looked up in the dictionary here. So to be set up, established, or fixed, that's one meaning. Second, in a moral sense, to be directed right, like to be directed in like related to the word like kavana, machavin, to be prepared, ready, and that's about it. Okay, so let's just like briefly get those down. So thought with advice will be established, prepared, set up. Okay, something like that.
Very good, yeah.
Uvatachbulos aseh milchama.
That's it, tachbulos.
Yeah. What anyone know what tachbula is? So, and with strategies, okay, strategies, aseh milchama. Yeah, wage war. We'll say wage because I think that's what we say in English, right? Wage war. Okay, thoughts with advice will be established, prepared, or set up, and with strategies, wage war. Just so you know, Art Scrolls translation is thoughts conceived in counsel will be firm. Counsel, they're saying counsel like with an S, like same thing as advice basically. Will be firm. Wage war with strategies. Okay.
Yeah, but okay. So it seems like it's a distinction between machshavos and tachbulos.
Yeah.
Seems to be a distinction.
So let's ask that as a question. What is the difference and relationship between machshavos and tachbulos? And what I said last time also applies that it does. They are different words, but like we can say that they're synonyms here. Pass that down.
Well, it seems to be saying that there's a distinction between. I mean, the thing is that it doesn't mention the word eitzah by tachbulos, so I don't.
That is also true, right?
I think it is saying there's something distinct. There's two different types of thought or something going on in your head, and saying, well, this is what this does. This is what this does.
Okay, I definitely hear it. Let me just catch you up. What's your name?
First.
Oh, you're Gersh. Or wait, are you the one that I've been talking to or not?
Probably not.
Okay, fine. I'm expecting someone named Gershon to come. All right, fine. So let me just catch you up on the pasuk we're doing, which is machshavot be'etza tikon, right? So thought with advice or counsel will be established, prepared, or set up, and with strategies wage war. And then the approach we're using is we're gonna raise all the questions that we can, not look at Mefarshim, try to come up with the idea on our own, and then like go to the Mefarshim. Yeah. So Yosef, one possibility is that machshavot and tachbulos are the things that are being like compared and contrasted. The other possibility is what? That tachbulos is being compared with eitzah, right? And like structurally, I'm inclined to say it's compared with eitzah because it's machshavot be'eitzah and ubitachbulos, So like it's machshavot corresponds to aseh milchama, and be'eitzah is corresponding to tachbulos.
Another question also, what are we waging war against? Like, what's this?
Okay, right.
I think tikon.
So what? I'm sorry. Let me just get that question down. So what is the war in this context, right? What kind of war against whom? Yeah, what were you saying?
Well, I think it's more tikon is being compared to aseh milchama. Like it's two results or it's two practicalities of these two different things.
Okay, I hear that also, right? Machshavos are being established and war is being waged. Oh, sorry, wait. What do you say? It's being contrasted with tachbulos?
Tikon and aseh milchama are being.
Tikon, yeah. Okay, good. So
Machshavos is part. I think that's part of Beitz. I think that's really one thing. Machshavos Beitz thing compared to Vitachulos.
okay, so I'm just gonna ask as a question on the list here, what exactly are the opposites? Okay, what exactly are the opposites? That way we can have like the flexibility. Yeah. Okay. What else?
What is machshavos be'etza? What does that mean exactly?
Machshavos be'etza. Yeah. Well, hold on a second. What is machshavos be'etza? Well, it's, I don't know if that's a phrase, right? Machshavos be'etza tikon. So maybe I'm just not understanding what you're asking. Are you saying how are machshavos becoming tikoned by etza?
Oh, yeah, I thought machshavos be'etza is a thing, and that's tikon.
Yeah, I think the only way to read it is machshavos are tikon with etza.
Okay.
That's what I think. Yeah. So but we can still ask the question though, right? How are machshavos tikon the etza?
What does it mean to be Tikon?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I
Sorry.
was also asking.
Yeah. Okay. So what does tikon mean here? All right. Good.
Like even like what is it? What's the importance of establishing a thought or
Right.
having a firm? Like
Right. Yeah. Meaning, does it mean that it will like succeed? Does it mean it'll be like clarify? Like, yeah, it's just lots of ways you can prepare or like establish something.
right. Let's say so.
I feel like there's an obvious question on the top of those. Yeah.
I was just like, what does war have to do with?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So let's do that also. What is the unifying subject of the pasuk? Right. Such that which includes thoughts, machshavot, and milchama.
Also, like, what's the second half? Like teaching.
Yeah, that's the question I'm thinking, right? Yeah, duh, on the second half. That's the question, right? The second half. I mean, like, would you ever wage war without a strategy? Like,
Just
yeah,
fight.
yeah, right, yeah,
Go flying route.
yeah. What? So, what is it? What is it? What's the finish? Yeah, what's the to do? Okay, good. All right, are those all of the? Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna list the question that I said like you should ask of every pasuk in Mishlei, which is what what's the practical application, right? Which is kind of alluded to in our other questions, but it's always good to ask it explicitly for practical application. Yeah, I think that's about it, right? We've defined all the, or we've asked questions about all the terms. Yeah. All right. So we can always add questions later. All right. So now we open the floor for answers, ideas, explanations.
Well, for Machshavot and Tanakh, my thought was that maybe Machshavot referring to like kind of like thoughts are like an idea or so. And
Yeah.
then refers to more like strategy, like a planned out course of action within your thoughts, and almost in a way of like if you're, I mean, without knowing the exact subject of it, but kind of thinking more through it, not just hey, this is a good thought, but then going from it.
Okay. So just to make sure I understand the first part of what you said. So are you saying that basically machshavos are the individual things, and then takbulos is when you like chain together a bunch of machshavos in terms of a grander
Yeah.
plan, meaning takbulos are made up of machshavos.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good, just in abstract definition that we can work with, right? So let's just explore that and see how it goes. So machshavos be'etza tikon. So let's try to figure out what that would mean. Oh, so in other words, just to spell out the ramifications here. So what the pasuk would be saying then is that this is a step-by-step process. Step one, you get machshavos. Step two, you tikon them with etza. And step three is you incorporate them into a takbula. And then step four is you wage war.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's nice.
One nice one.
Yeah. Just as a methodology thing, sometimes your intuition will lead you somewhere in a pasuk, and the intuition will not give you an idea, but it'll set up a structure to fill in an idea. And that's what just happened here. Like he just said this one thing, good intuition, and then suddenly like the structure just like materializes, and then now we can test it out by like putting stuff into the structure. So So, and let's, for the time being, and probably for the whole learning of this, we're going to assume that milchama is just like a regular war, right? I mean, our derech, generally speaking, is to stick to the literal interpretation as much as possible, and then only branch off into like metaphor or non-literal if we have to, if we're forced to. So in a war, so what would be like an example of a machshava in a war, and then what would be an example of a machshava without etza, without being tikkoned by etza, and a machshava that is tikkoned by etza?
I mean, in counsel refers to seeking advice to that extent. So maybe, like, if you're planning an attack and you're just planning it yourself, you're not going to think of everything. So you need advice to know that you're on the right path.
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, advice.
All right, say that one more time. I just blanked out.
If you're planning an attack, let's say, so you're planning and you're planning it, and so you obviously don't want to just have your own intuition. You want to talk to others.
Right.
You want to
Okay, yeah. So let's just spell that out. So what exactly is it? There's someone sitting right here. He just temporarily out, I think. Yeah. So what exactly is it that you're getting from counsel of other people, or what is it that you're missing if you don't have counsel? Because you said like to check it out. Like, let's just spell that out, what that means. Like categorically, if we can. Why is it important to ask someone else for advice?
Because you're only one person, you're limited.
Okay, limited in what sense?
You can only think of and know so much.
Okay, so let's divide that into two, right? So one thing is if you take counsel from other people, they might bring facts to the table that you don't have, okay? Second is that you're limited to your own thinking, okay? So they might have an angle of, let's say you have the same facts, they might help you to think about those facts in a different way than you would, just because your minds are different, okay? And I think there's at least one more reason to get Eitzah, but I maybe there's more.
If you're involved in something, they could see it from a more objective
perspective. Right, is objectivity, right? Is that your own emotions will be involved in it in a different way than theirs are, because they're not you and they're not in the same situation, right? So I think those three areas is that when you have asked someone for advice, you're doing it in order to possibly get new facts, new ways of thinking, and more objective thinking. Is that it, or is there something else? I feel like that's like exhaustive, but like let's think about it for a little bit more. See, this is fun. It's just funny, by the way, that yeah, the other day, a couple days ago, I forgot when this was. I asked someone for advice, and and the way I prefaced it is I said, what did I say? I said I need perspective and practicality, and it's like, it's good, and it felt good to like go into, because sometimes you ask for advice and you feel like you need advice, but you don't know exactly like what it is that you're asking for. So I think just being aware of these categories is good. So the thing we were saying is the question is, what do you get from Eitzah if you have a machshava? So we said three possible things is the other person could give you facts you didn't have, the other person could have ways of thinking about those facts that you didn't have, or the person can think about them more objectively because their emotions are not involved. And we're just trying to see, is there anything else you get from advice other than those three things, or does that cover all of them?
There's also the humility aspect, and just in the sense of,
okay.
Not necessarily a practical
ramification
in and of itself, but the process, sort of like in Islam, the concept of shura, like you have to get counsel from others.
Okay, so that's a good thing. So that's a different, I like you're acknowledging, that's a different category, which we also should consider, which is like, let's say you asked for advice and you didn't get anything in these three categories. The very act of realizing that like, I am not, that like we said yesterday, that my thoughts are not reality, and like saying like, I could be wrong, or I could not have a full picture. The act of submitting yourself for advice, like let's say, okay, bizarre scenario. Let's say you go and you ask for advice, and as the person's about to open their mouth, they get shot and they die. So the question is, did you accomplish anything? And the answer according to you is yes, right? Because you submitted yourself to advice seeking, and that's benefit for your own perfection.
I think also, even if when you do get advice, in the fact that someone else looks and you get a sense of security.
That's okay, good. So now what we're realizing is there are two categories of benefits that you get, right? So there is the benefits to the machshava, and then there's the benefits to the person, to you, the person who's in seeking advice. So benefit for person number one is in midos, intellectual humility, however you want to divide that. I'm sure we could divide it into more categories also. And then secondly, there is a certain security that you get, which I think could be good or bad, right? Meaning, like, let's say like there are like, let's say you like this happens all the time, right? Is that people have a practical question, they talk to like a friend and like a bunch of other people who are like experts in the area, and like the experts like give all these arguments, but they take security in their friend because it's their friend, like security is a double-edged sword, but I agree that can be something good, because sometimes what you do is you have all the factors you need to make the decision, but you just don't have the courage to like implement it, and having someone affirm your decision-making process can help you to like take that step. That's good. Anything else?
You also say Muhammad, right? So like, what is?
Well, sorry, just before we go to talk about this part, anything else? I mean, we could always add later, but anything else in machshava to eitzah? Were you there when we said the difference, the 4 steps of machshava versus takula? Okay, so the way we're exploring right now is basically a takbula is made up of machshavos. Takbula is an overall strategy, and machshava is like one element. And so what we're trying to do is we're saying that there's 4 stages in waging war. Stage 1, get a machshava. Stage, or like individual machshavos. Stage 2 is refine them through eitzah, or tikkun them through eitzah. Stage 3 is incorporate them into a takbula, and stage 4 is actually wage war. So that's what we're exploring. And you can have different approaches to that, but that's like what's on the table right now. So are we good with machshava and tikkun to eitzah, and now we can move on to takbula? Or do we have any other benefits you get from
I mean, I'm just curious by like the word established. Like it feels like.
Yeah, still you're right. Still is a weird word, right? I mean,
why not like seek? Like I feel like seek would go seek advice would be more
so
classic.
I think based on what we said so far, establish just means to make sure that it's going to correspond with reality in the best way possible. In other words, say again.
To affirm.
Affirm. I actually like established better, because like, and maybe it's just I'm thinking in terms of what we said yesterday, that there's reality and then there's your thoughts or your plans. And what we want to do is, so a bad plan is a plan that doesn't correspond with reality, and a good plan is one that does correspond with reality. So what you want is take your machshava and get as clear of a picture of reality as possible, and make sure that it's on a firm footing, like that the machshava has a basis in
The
reality.
only question on that is that it doesn't say your thoughts; it just says thought.
Right.
So it's theoretically almost like these objective kind of thoughts. It's like,
So it could be, but the fact that it's telling you at the end asay milchama means it's talking to a person and their thoughts that they're using to wage war. So I think even though it doesn't say the word your thoughts, I think it's
I
still
think
good.
it's a different portion, but I don't know if you're including the argument because it
Oh,
says,
yeah.
It changes the coup to it changes the character to coup and it makes it into Titan.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So we actually did skip a step. Usually, what we do is we don't read Mefarshim except the Targumim.
Okay.
So you're good there. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether that is just straight up the translation of Tikkun or that is an interpretation.
What's he?
I just don't know the what was that? Titakin means to fix or to correct or to make correct. It could just be the standard translation. It's funny because when I listed I have the Targum on the screen. I just forgot to read it. And the Targum, I guess you guys have the Targum up. Machshavta be'etata titaken uva mad branuta misavet karava. So the only word I looked up was mad branuta, which is just a straight translation of takbulos. So I didn't notice the titaken part. So I'm glad you caught that. Yeah. And then Sadigon is another Targum.
Looks like it comes from the bear. Instead of I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, it does look like that. Yeah.
Aramaic,
Yeah. No, you're right. It does look like that. Yeah. Okay. So we good for going on to takbulos now? Okay. So now you've got your machshavos. Okay. So let's just like talk about a fictional practical case. Okay. Like we're in war. Okay. Let's just make a simple thing of like a 2-part takbula. Okay. So sneak up on the enemy and like hit him on the head. Okay. Right. So sneak up on the enemy. You think I'm going to sneak up. You think to yourself, I'm going to sneak up on the enemy. So then you ask your other soldiers or friends or whatever, like what do you think about that plan? And then one guy points out to you, oh, like this guy has really good hearing and he's a very, very hard person to sneak up on. Maybe what you should do instead is like wait until there's like gunfire and then sneak. So then he helps you with that. and then the hit him on the head. Well, this guy has a really hard head, so he's not hurt much. Instead, like maybe strangle him, you know. So so then you get that part. So now you've got your takbula, okay. So is this is there a step here, you know, to like between the first and the second half? You were gonna say something about takbula earlier.
It's a- I kind of think that Tahbula is, I don't know. I mean, it seems to be some kind of practical thought. Like it seems to be more like, I'm not sure, because both of them have to be practical in some way.
Yeah.
Because that's what Mishlei is for. But,
Right.
But
You mean Takbula, the verb to be weaving together as machshava?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You want to elaborate on that?
It's like, so you go for advice and you get told like, yeah, he has a really hard head and he has really great hearing.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, so then the way to counteract that is to sneak up on him during gunfire and then strangle him.
Right. Right. So what's the havamina? I think if we think about the havamina, like why would you? Okay, let's say you only had the first half of the pasuk. Machshavos be'etzah tikon, right? So now the reader of Mishlei is like, okay, I'm ready to go, and someone's like, wait, but tachbulos asayim lokama. So why would you think that you don't need tachbulos? Yeah.
I mean, Tafbul is just to make a more set out plan too, not just an idea.
Right.
And particularly in Nochama where any small mistake you make can be much more costly than
Mhm.
regular. And also you don't have the same time and also your head's not in the same way
Right.
to make decisions or to start thinking about things.
Yeah.
Versus the way that things can just go in everyday life. And so for that you need to have a full set out plan and not just ideas about what.
Okay.
the
That's good.
A much more solid structure to it.
Yeah. I have comments on that in a second.
The
Yeah.
thing is that Tahbula seems to be, I mean, the way I think of it is that it's excluding what else you should do with it, right? Say it's kind of giving it a place.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
this is where you should use Tahbula and it's by Austin or something. Or
That's true. I don't know. I sense that that's not the reason why it's telling you that. Because first of all, it's not the only place you should use takbula.
I know, I'm not saying it's the only place, I'm just saying that's the example of it, but I'm saying it's kind of to exclude like whatever, Tikon or some other result.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I want to come back to that. I gotta say what I was gonna say about on David's thing. So tell me if this makes any sense. Like I feel like there's a phenomenon in decision making. I mean, you were putting it in the context of war, that because war is like a very stressful time, and we'll come back to that in a second. But just think about in general. I think this is a move people do is when they have a big decision, or I guess even a small decision, and they have machshavos. Like in order for the machshavos to actually achieve the result, they do have to coordinate with each other. You know, I think a problem is people have machshavos and the machshava feels good in abstract, and it might be good in abstract, but when you put it together, then like you have to put it together in the right way. Like for example, this is just the most recent example. Yesterday, some other teacher was consulting with me about how to develop a curriculum. You know, in another high school, you know, in a high school that he's teaching at, and so I was. So like, it's very easy when you're designing a curriculum to be like, ooh, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. And each of them is a good idea. And like, you could talk about it in abstract, but the question is, okay, well, you only have 7 periods a week. And these are like, and so like, how are you going to actually like implement these? You can't implement, maybe this is it. You can't implement machshavos. You can only implement takbulos, you know, like you have to translate it into practicality. And so there is so now I'm wondering, machshava might be like, that's all I was going to say. I guess I don't have anything more than that. You know, and then what you said with the war thing, I think in a situation of war or in a stressful situation, then this is even more necessary to think in takbula terms of how is this going to contribute to my ultimate objective? Like what's your end game, or what's the route to victory? You know, you can't just say like this one move will be good. Yeah.
But I guess ATA could help with that, but it doesn't seem necessary. Like you could create a curriculum on your own that works.
Right. So are you saying ETA doesn't help necessarily for takbula, or?
Yeah. Like why is ATA unnecessary? Yeah. Like if he. Yeah.
So I mean, it is maybe this is what you're saying. Maybe I've got the reverse. It doesn't say ETA by takbula.
No, I know. Oh.
So is that
yes,
support you, or is that?
We were saying before that it's a prerequisite.
It's prerequisite for the machshava part,
Yeah.
right?
To be equal here.
Yeah. Right.
Because you need to make sure that the machshavos that make up the takbula are per se quote unquote good.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
Check that.
Eitzah is not necessary for that. You can do that on your own theoretically. It's just
Right, but it just won't be tikkun, right? Like in 5 or in the 3 reasons we said.
no, well, those things are helpful for it. But like you're saying, you could create like you as a professional
Right,
teacher could
right.
create a curriculum.
Right. Yeah. It is possible to. I think this is just like in normal Mishleic advice giving, which is that like it's not that these things are necessary for the results. It's that it's the most advisable course of action. Meaning your probability that of succeeding in war is going to be much better if you use counsel for all of your machshavos. But yeah, you can have individual people like look at dictators, like or really arrogant people. Like they'll have machshavos and they'll implement them, and many times they will be successful. But that doesn't mean that that's a good decision, And just in terms of the thing I pointed out in trying to understand your question, and if you feel like this is a cheap move, then just read more Mishlei. I think Eitzah does apply to the second half, and it's something we see a lot in Mishlei where fragments from both halves apply to each other. Yeah.
I have a question about the later part. I just realized I say Malchama. It doesn't say to win war. It says to wage war.
Right. The results are not up to you.
I know.
Yeah.
So I mean, because usually if you give someone a strategy, it's like, okay, this strategy will be like the way to win. But in this case, it's like you may not win this one still.
Right.
I guess it's interesting.
Yeah. That's a good nuance there. Yeah.
I think that tikkun kind of means to objectify it in some way. Because the thing is that you're asking other people. Right?
Yeah.
What happens when you ask other people? You get a different perspective.
Right.
And let's say they agree with you.
Right.
2 people agree on something, it means that there's some substance to it.
Right. Right.
And so like tikkun, I think, means objectifying.
So like so you're saying like establish as a reality, like
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I hear that. Yeah.
Because that's why you're asking someone else. Because it's completely irrational.
Yeah.
Someone else will say no.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Can we just do one thing also in terms of the duh question? I mean, I think we have a solid answer for that because of what we just said, that it's not enough to have individual machshavos that are good. They need to be incorporated into a strategy. But what's the havmina of the whole pasuk, like in a war context? Like what would be the havmina? I think 2 people said this when we were like raising the question. Like what would the fool do who does not have the pasuk, the Mishleic fool?
I don't think it needs to be such a deep.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But just let's say it though.
I think they
You wouldn't
just-
ask for counsel and you would just go into war.
I mean,
Yeah.
No, there is
But-
some havmina actually to be reactive. I mean, that isn't like a completely
Okay, yeah.
idea.
You
Just
would be
be reactive
Right.
is a real idea.
Okay. So here's the thing: is that like I think both we were just saying facets of the same thing, which is that there is a certain feeling you have in certain decisions where I can just like either wing it or just by throwing myself into it or just through willpower. There are different, I mean, maybe it's different versions of this, of like, I'm just gonna like throw myself into the situation and hope for the best, And I think that when there are cases where that's the right thing to do, like my dad was a doctor and he said that like, making the right decision is the best thing to do. And then making the wrong decision is the second best thing to do, or, is worse, but then not acting is like the worst thing you can do. Meaning like,
That's what Churchill said, I think.
is it what Churchill said? Okay. So someone who actually was involved in war, right? But in other words, like if you're in the operating room and there's an emergency, like sometimes just throwing yourself in and just doing something and just relying on intuition is better than like just being paralyzed, But here's the thing. Or a soldier in war, you can't just think through everything consciously and like, hold on, enemy. Hey, buddy soldier, like, do you think I should do, you can't like do tikkun eitzah in real time. But here's the thing is if you're waging war, that you shouldn't just do like something there. I think I don't know how to define it or if we could categorically define it. Like an individual action is one thing, but a whole like enterprise or project or like, I don't think, and we can say war is that. War is not just a decision. It's an outcome which involves a complex network of decisions in sequence. So that would be bad to just do.
I was thinking about the fact that it uses the word for war, not battle. This idea of like it's specifically focusing on the greater picture rather than the smaller picture.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know enough about Hebrew to say whether like I know we use the verb. Say again?
A milchama, I think, can be just a battle.
That's what I was going to say. I know that like lochim can be used between individuals, but I just don't know if like a milchama, like I've never seen a case of like two people fighting, and that's called a milchama, unless you're using it in like a analogous way, Yeah.
But like it's saying a fight could also be a milchama. That's other things. Like it refers to in like Nevi'im, like I think in Yoshua when they were like fighting against certain nations, even though that wasn't the whole war. The whole war was against all 7 of the tribes.
Oh, okay. So you're I don't know which one you meant, but you were saying war versus battle, like
Yeah.
war is made up of battles. I was saying in terms of war versus like individual conflict. But what you were saying like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, fine, yeah, right.
It could
Yeah, there's no difference in Hebrew between a war and a battle, right? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. So let's summarize what we have and then do some mafarshim. Okay. So I think what we have, and tell me if I'm missing anything here, is that the pasuk is addressing any person who's going to engage in a complex endeavor. Okay. It's talking to someone who might be inclined to miss any one of these steps. So the most basic thing is to just go straight to war. Okay. And that is based on this feeling that like, I can just wing it, okay? And we're using that loosely here, okay? And it's saying, no, slow down. First, you need individual machshavos. Oh, and by the way, I didn't even say this. Machshava in Rambam lingo, and I'm pointing there because it's the Perishah Mishnayot. I'm not pointing there because it's you don't get it from Mishnah Torah. It's in the Shmona Parakim in the part where he says the parts of the soul. And he defines the different types of the rational faculty and what it does. So machshava is practical thinking. So the best English word for machshava is plan. Okay. So but we have to realize plan and strategies are different. So meaning an actionable idea. Let's say that. So first you need actionable ideas, right? You can't just like say I want wealth and I'm just going to like get it. Like you have to like have I want to work for money. I want to steal money. What was it?
the steps.
The steps, yeah. Individual steps. So you have machshavos, and then you need to weave those together into an overarching strategy, a takbula. But for both the machshavos and the takbula, you need eitzah. The reason why you need eitzah is to make sure that you have all the facts, to make sure that you're thinking about those facts in the best way possible, in the most accurate way possible, to make sure that you're thinking about them in the most objective way possible. And then there are other fringe midos benefits of keeping intellectual humility, which is going to be a good thing in general and in terms of implementing the plan, getting security to give you the courage to make the decision, affirmation, validation, and then you wage the war. Yeah.
We should clarify the second and third benefit base.
Of the thinking about them correctly and
Anything that I'm objective.
yeah, meaning that there are 2 types of mistakes in thinking. One is that you're analyzing it wrong, like making a mistake in logic, making a jump without like relying on a premise that is not established, like intellectual mistakes. And then emotional mistakes are your emotions are causing you to like weigh the factors differently, or causing you to like but yeah, bias, right? There are different fallacies. So there's like basically I was meaning intellectual and emotional mistakes. And I think those are sufficiently different that we can like list them as 2.
Yeah.
And then facts are different also. Like, yeah. And we were thinking, is there something else in this category? And so far I haven't thought of anything. I think those are the 3.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, this goes without saying, but like the more eitzah you get, the better. And obviously you can't infinitely go get eitzah because then you're never going to act. But like, but it is a quantitative thing. And there are also obviously better and worse people to get eitzah from,
See, I think it's a quality and quantity. I don't know if it's just in the
Yeah, correct. It's quality and quantity. Yeah, correct. Okay, so should we do some mafarshim?
Sure.
Okay, so let's do we have 12 minutes, and I do want to move on to the next pasuk tomorrow. So let's do Rabbeinu Yonah because I haven't read Rabbeinu Yonah. Let's do Rabbeinu Yonah. I'm in the Rabbeinu Yonah mood. Okay, so he looks like he starts on the next page.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the left column. With Nachon. Nachon Hadavar. It is a good thing that a person think about his actions before acting. That he take counsel about his plans with others. And then his plan will be established, or however we want to translate tikon, and the tichshar, and it will be validated or fixed or prepared. I don't know how. Kasher is always hard to translate, right? The titzlach lefol, and it'll succeed in action. And again, I think, John, that I don't think it means a guaranteed success, but like likely success. But it was interesting. He should not rely on the matter without first having machshavos libo, right? Preceding it with machshavos libo. In other words, first you have machshavos libo, then you ask for advice.
Mostly, but like you're in.
Well, let's see if he elaborates. I don't know, because my first thought around this, that's what we do with Mishlei every day, right? We don't just ask for advice from the Mefarshim, we do machshavos libo first. But I'm just imagining that. Okay, Kasher Amru Zal, like Chazal say, Shitin Malchin Yehon Lach Umalka Denachshach Lo Tishbok. All right, that's an interesting quote. Where's this from?
What's that? Yeah, what is that?
Aras I don't know. Oh, it looks like it's an edition of Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so this is from the Aleph Beis de Ben Sira, which was a that was a Gaonic, yeah, it was a apocryphal book, but it was like a proto-Kabbalistic. Yeah, right. So I don't know what it is. So apparently this is not a traditional source. I think it means so Shitin Malchin Yehon Lach, you should have 60 kings for yourself. Umaka the Nafshach Lo Tishbok, but don't abandon the king of self. Okay, the king of your soul, right? So in other words, you should, I assume kings here are like people who you ask for advice from. So go to 60 kings, but don't abandon your own inner king. Adam, that's what the Rambam says at the end of the Moreh Nevuchim, that your king is your intellect. The king over you is your intellect, right? Yeah. All right. Ki ha'adam yitrach lachshov b'machshava b'ma'asav yoter mesher yitrachu acherim lach korleim. Interesting. Person will toil to think of his own plans for action more than others will inquire, will analyze them. Okay, so that is very interesting, right? So all these benefits that we point out from asking other people are true. However, no one is going to care as much about your own decision as you are. So like you are going to put more tircha into it. So that's a benefit that you get. That's really interesting, right?
Because that seems like the opposite.
Yeah.
That seems like the exact reason why you want to go for advice, because you put.
Well, no, he's not denying that. He's just saying you should do that first, and then bring it to others. And I've had this experience also where like I've asked for advice from really good people, and they what do you call it, gave me the best advice that they could give me based on the information that they had. And then I realized, oh man, like I didn't think into this deeply enough to be able to present to the person who I asked advice from, like to present it to them. Like this actually happened with me once that I, Rabbi Moskowitz is my Rebbe, and Rabbi Chait is my Rebbe. So I had asked Rabbi Chait for advice, and I presented him with all the facts, and he gave me perfect advice for those facts, but it made me realize I didn't delve deeply into enough. So I delved into it deeply more, and then asked Rabbi Moskowitz, and then got different advice. And I was like, I bet if I had asked that to Rabbi Chait and like presented all of the relevant things, then he would have given me very similar advice. And it was just like, I didn't go deeply enough. And I think that's what he's saying. So you do need both, but you need to like do the groundwork. Okay, let's see, he goes on. However, or thus, yivchon machshavto ba'atzas acherim. Then he should refine his thoughts with the advice of others. Because man's intellect is deficient. Maybe he'll err and something will be hidden from him. According to what we said, maybe he will err or something will be hidden from him. But that would just be a nicer way to say it. But whatever, both are true. And the areas in which he erred, others will make him understand it, and he'll become wiser. To think about that matter. Oh, there he goes. He's saying our categories. Also, many times his desire about the action will blind the eyes of his intellect. Worst kind of blindness, intellectual blindness. And it'll become known to him through counseling others, being counseled with others. Okay, let's read the next one. I mean, I don't think this is radically different than what we're saying. It's just clearer and like more fleshed out, especially the part about the take counsel with yourself first. Okay. So war requires plans and advice and strategies to see the outcome. And to plan if the Ya'arimu sod ha'oivim. I would translate it as if you could like outsmart the secret strategies of the enemy. I don't know if that's the best way to say it. Al derech kazos in such and such a manner. Nischakim lahem al derech kazos. You should outsmart them in this manner. V'nachim inyanim utstadim v'nachin lanu haderech me'ata. And we should preface these matters and all the angles and prepare for ourselves the derech from now. I don't know what he means by that. Oh, I get what he's saying. In other words, prepare these things ahead of time so that the eighth hahi is like David's point, so that we have the ability at that time to outsmart them in this manner. Therefore, you should not wage war unless you have with you people of understanding who know strategies. Yeah, that's another point also, just to flesh this out, that this is not the best example, but because I was thinking about the curriculum thing, then I'll use this example, is that in when I taught high school, then after planning all my like curricular stuff, I would actually make a full schedule in print, like type it out, every single minute of the day that I was going to be teaching and what I needed to prepare for myself, what I was going to be teaching, how this fit into my whole curriculum, what rooms I need to be in, what times. And the reason why I did it all ahead of time is because it's a very stressful time at the beginning of the year. And you don't, as a teacher, you don't want to be working stuff out at the time. So what I did was I planned it all ahead of time. And that way, when I was actually teaching, I could just go on, I could focus totally on what's going on in the classroom and not have to worry about decision making. Now, the catch is you also have to maintain the flexibility if things change, you know, but like that I did also.
Well,
Maybe
that's part of what this pasuk is referring to when it comes to strategy versus thoughts. Like thoughts are in a way almost, I guess, like more concrete things. Like this is what I'm thinking. Versus strategy, it's a plan. You can directly have a plan that has a more open end to it.
Yeah. Right. Meaning a thought by definition is going to be. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I can't articulate it though. Strategies are, because strategies are the weaving together of machshavos, then there's always going to be a certain inherent fluidity, where the machshavos just like hit the guy on the head. There's no flexibility in that. If you change it, then it's a different machshava. Hakbula of sneak up on the guy, hit him on the head, drop a rock on his head, that's like where the flexibility comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I don't know this is what the Rabbeinu Yonah was saying last line here, but if you go consult others beforehand, then they can see you along the way also, right? And once again, while you're in the middle of things, you can't see things, but someone's out there watching you, and they could constantly put their input.
Oh, that's true. Right.
To like help you along.
That's good. That's a good point. Right. Yeah. Just to give a nod to the Meiri, I haven't read the Meiri, but you want to guess? You want to guess what the Meiri is going to apply this to? I have two possible guesses. Let me explain Meiri. So Meiri is a good, best starter commentary in Mishlei ever. Okay, yeah. So Meiri does two things. He takes each pasuk in the derech nigla and the derech nister. Derech nigla is basically practical decision making for material success. Derech nister is about success of like the inner life or like the soul. So I can think of two areas in which you would yeah.
He's gonna say that your machshavos are like prepared by the eight of Torah.
Oh,
like,
interesting. Okay.
With the milchama with like the eight of
Okay, so right, so that's one application, right? Is the milchamas hayetzer, and it's if you're gonna say that, it's of the Torah is good, and I think there are pasukim that explicitly refer to what's the thing we say? Is there a one later on that says Eitzah? Atzas, whatever. There are pasukim where they're called the Torah Eitzah. That's a different one, but that's not the one I was thinking of. Anyway, what's the other possibility about what he might apply this to other than war with your Yetzer? I think you're probably right. But yeah, so I would say the other thing is just in terms of the Mefamta Shal Torah, in terms of learning, like in terms of gaining success in Chachma. Let's see what he actually says if we have a minute. So we're not doing the whole Meiri. We're doing the Meiri on. Did he say Derek Nister? Maybe he doesn't say Derek Nister here. That would be weird. That'd be a letdown.
Oh man.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. It's on the second page. It's like 6 lines down after the period. First one line is Haroi. So he said he explained it earlier. Let me see what he says earlier.
Well, he quotes it, it says there on,
Say again?
right after it says.
Oh, it does?
He says what he said.
The
Yeah.
Amar, okay, machshavot b'lashon rabim v'tikon lashon yachid chudra kol echad min mach- I think that's just explaining the words in the pasuk. Hold on, just 1 second. Let me just look this up. 11:14. So he said, "Oh, that's a long Erie." Oh, that's not on our pasuk. Okay. Meiri. All the longer. U'v'derech nifter. Ata yodea ki. Oh man, we did this earlier. Ki hamalchios shlosha. There are 3 kings. Melech Hamadina, umelech b'bayis, umelech b'guf ha'adam. All right, let's not do this one. There's a whole when you have to explain a whole like other set of analogies in order to like, it's going to take more work than we have for 1 minute. So let's stop for today and plan to do the next podcast tomorrow. Right.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Thank you.
I think that I have the guy because I emailed you, but I forgot.